All right, everybody, welcome back to Being No Ball. Let's take a quick little video to get you guys. Christian, why don't you let them know what we got from today?
Yeah, so obviously all the head coaching vacancies have been filled up with the last hire today. So just a quick video going over them, and we got some surprises and some pretty good hires. So obviously, let's start off with probably one of the first ones was just the Patriots. Jerod Mayo. I mean, he was the linebacker coach of the Patriots for quite some time now, and even him as a player. So obviously, when Belichick's tenure finally ended, there's already speculations that Jerod Mayo was already a top candidate to overtake.
He did have that. I forget what they called it. That he had it in his contract that he'd be the next in line to get in. They did get to bypass the Rooney Rule, all these rules to actually just go into no interviews, just right into the hire, and obviously they didn't feel the need to look for anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, Jerod Mayo, look, he was with the team and he was coaching for the team, and he's probably the better experienced one here from the assistant positions, and I think it's going to be possibly I would say it's a decent hire here. But when we're looking at this actual Patriots team with the pieces around them, the quarterback situation, and the defense, that, don't get me wrong, it was still very good this season. Obviously, just with the offensive problems, there's a lot of things that are really going on wrong with this Patriots team. Hopefully Jerod Mayo, as Patriots fan, you want to hope, he has a lot of potential as a head coach, but with the way the Patriots are looking here, it's still going to be a really tough job for him.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely say it's one of the more under the radar. It's tough to really know. I mean, honestly, a lot of these that we're going to get into, we don't really know what to expect. But with Mayo, I mean, this is a culture guy, and obviously he doesn't have to set a culture. He's been in that culture. He's been he's part of Belichick's tree, obviously. So I guess you can see a lot of things maybe stay similar. Obviously, a lot of defensive knowledge that comes into this game, and we know, he was there when it was that lull. They didn't win a bunch of titles in that time when when Eli was kind of kicking their butt for a bit, but this he does come with that culture. He's like I said, he's one of Belichick's guys, and obviously the defense is gonna love him. We saw Mac Jones. He did attend the presser, and obviously a lot of people that may have rubbed the wrong way. I mean, I think we're giving Mac Jones too much hate, but at the end of it, I saw some report that maybe they're considering Davis Mills. That's something to maybe look into. They're definitely looking to quarterback, so we'll see what relationship Mayo can have with his next with his next roster. But definitely I would say a pretty good hire moving on from Belichick. And moving on to that, another internal hire here with the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, this is something we've been talking about for so much time with Antonio Pierce. We kind of expected, I mean, this was expected. I mean, we see guys who are basically threatening to riot. I mean, guys like Max Crosby threatened to ask for a trade if he wasn't hired. And I guess, when your best defensive player in years threatens to leave if you don't get him, you're probably gonna go with that guy. And I mean, look, something that I kind of speculated to you, it's not a bad hire. It's something that it's good for the culture, like we talked about Mayo, but how much experience and how much know-how you're gonna need to bring so many guys to really mold him to really lead an offense. So let's see how much he can do.
That was the thing with Antonio Pierce as well. Like, look, obviously the Raiders, we love to crap on them, but these recent years, with the whole John Gruden hire with the 10-year contract and the whole email scandal, and then you're moving in with Rich Bisaccia, who, once again, another guy, he set a culture for this Raiders team. But obviously, Mark Davis, he didn't sign up.
In fairness to Bisaccia, he'd been a coordinator for years compared to Pierce. I bet he's been here for 18 months.
Yeah, and I mean, Rich Bisaccia had a lot of experience, and the team really loved him. And obviously, that was a pretty stupid move to go. And then obviously with Josh McDaniels, we saw that go. Antonio Pierce, he's still very young when it comes to coaching, and sure, he was a don't get me wrong, he's a pretty decent player when he was playing with the Giants, not that long ago. I believe it was in the late 2000s. I think when they won the Super Bowl against the Patriots.
He won a Super Bowl with the Patriots.
So obviously
the Giants.
Yeah. So obviously, he's obviously going to work his experience out without a doubt. But he's still young, and whatever the Raiders got to do with this team, still a lot of improvements to go, especially on that offensive side. Really, if we're being thorough here, they're a quarterback away, and Raiders, they could potentially be I wouldn't say contending team, but they would be a team to look out for coming next season. Still got flaws though, especially with that defense, which improved really, really well. But there's still a lot of improvements that they really got to put there. But Antonio Pierce, I would say this is a very great hire for this Raiders team. Culture's there, and you just really got to look forward to. And hopefully these Raider fans finally got something to be happy about. And now moving on with the next hire, which is the Titans signing Brian Callahan. I know you had a couple mixed feelings about this hire. I know
Well,
me.
I mean, I guess a lot of people felt that way because he's probably just a little unknown.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's not really that known. I mean, he was a coordinator. I had the team. Well,
Bengals. It was the
yeah,
Bengals OC.
there's the Bengals OC. I mean, sure, yeah. The Bengals offense, it was good for his tenure with their, with actually Burrow in the lineup. But he just really wasn't that known, and obviously this is just a big coming from this from the Titans, especially these Titan fans. A lot of mixed feelings here and there, but obviously we had a little chat about this. Little mixed feelings about this.
I mean, it was just the bonehead move to even get rid of Mike Vrabel, and that we're gonna get into a little bit with him in a little bit, but I mean, I just don't know what it seems like. It was a downgrade regardless to go with Callahan. Like, I mean, it's like, I mean, I'm not gonna go out there like, I mean, we probably don't really know that much about Brian Callahan. We probably could have done our research on him, but honestly, I do think that they'll probably succeed somewhat with him. I mean, they're in a tough division. It's crazy as it is to say in the AFC South now, with guys like DeMeco Ryans, Shane Steichen, and even Doug Peterson, a sneaky coach himself. He probably easily goes to the bottom at the moment. He's really gonna have to prove himself a lot. They don't have a quarterback right now. Obviously, Tannehill's on his way out. They don't have a running back. Their best player is obviously going to be on his way out. So he has a lot to work on himself. I mean, we know if he can set a culture himself, if he can build this team from the ground up, is what he's going to have to do. And it's going to be tough. I'm definitely going to be low on the Titans coming into next year probably. But, I mean, hey, he's just going to have to prove the whole league wrong. And of course, moving into probably the biggest move that we got this offseason, the will he, won't he? And the Chargers finally, after it's been years that it's been speculated, Jim Harbaugh has been lured out of Michigan. He's gonna, obviously, I think one of the biggest reasons was the quarterback that they do have in place, Justin Herbert. It seems like, we can easily say Brandon Staley has definitely been holding him back offensively. I mean, Staley, even for the defensive mind, he's known he was holding back their Chargers defense as a whole. So we see definitely a really great pedigree in Jim Harbaugh, and we see what he could have done. I mean, he made I forget his friend, McCarthy from Michigan look elite for what as well. I mean, they won the national championship right now. And I mean, I think he's gonna definitely take a lot out of Herbert. And honestly, I've been saying it for years. I've been expecting the Chargers to kind of have some success, make the playoffs and all this. But I definitely do think this is gonna help him take the next step. And as a whole, I mean, I forget who they're bringing in defensively. I don't know if they've already made those moves, but I mean, I know they've made a pretty big hire in the GM role. I think they're making a lot of changes, obviously, the Chargers, because they're sick of losing. It's been the connotation with this team, and I think he's going to bring a really nice winning mentality to the Chargers for once.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the Chargers. They've been I guess cursed. These past couple years with what's been going on. Brandon Staley. We talked about it a lot. Possibly holding back the potential of Justin Herbert, because don't get me wrong, Justin Herbert, he's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. You can still make the argument with his clutch gene, which, I brought up a couple of times, and, what he can't do with this team. But, bad coaching is always a result from good players not being able to succeed from there. And it's seen a lot from these teams. And I do believe, Jim Harbaugh, with what he's done, I believe him and Herbert are going to be a very deadly duo. And, Justin Herbert, it's finally his time to finally shine and actually show him he can be possibly a top quarterback in the league. And now moving on to our next hire from a team that, they got a lot of shoes to fill here. And Dave Canales signing with the Carolina Panthers. He is another coach, just like Brian Callahan. He has a lot on his plate. I mean, he's coming off a quarterback who just finished his rookie year, arguably, a pretty bad rookie year, but a team with no weapons, an O-line that was pretty much in shambles the whole year, not giving Bryce Young any protection, and a defense who was arguably serviceable for the most part, but a defense that still needs a lot of work. And with Dave Canales, he was a coordinator for the Bucs in the past season. I mean, he was able to
a lot. I mean, he's been really instrumental in resurging Baker Mayfield's career, which I think that's one of the main reasons we saw him get so much look with the Panthers. I mean, sure, like what we said, they have no line and for what it's worth, no defense, but they have a quarterback. That's the difference that we see with this and the Titans hiring Callahan. They have a quarterback in place. They have someone to look towards the future, and if he can work that same magic, I mean, look, he's moving into the same divisions. When we see this, sometimes we see some success in these kinds of hires, and I definitely think Canales is going to succeed. I really liked him ever since mid-season to see what he was doing with the Bucs, and I think he can definitely have a lot of success with that with Young. I mean, just, you know, we do have to wait and see. Are they going to build around him? And you know, what can he do defensively? But regardless, I think it's a great trend in the right direction. We're seeing they're in a tough division even themselves, for what it's worth. Even though it's not that crazy, but you know, they're obviously on the wrong foot. But you know, we'll wait and see what the Panthers can do. I can definitely say I do have great expectations for Canales.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's a great step in the right direction. But obviously, Bryce Young is really the main concern, and all they got to do is just build around him and see what kind of culture Dave Canales can bring to this Carolina Panthers team.
Yeah, and of course, this one's hits a little close to home. Heading to the Atlanta Falcons, it's a little homecoming for Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. Obviously, you know, I've been saying it for so long, Christian. It goes up and down with me for him. I mean, I'm always gonna have a great spot in my heart for him because of what he did to lead the Rams to a Super Bowl, and that's the pedigree that he brings. You know, he comes with a ring, he comes with all that playoff experience, and he has experience with some of those Atlanta guys. I mean, sure, there's been a lot of roster turnover, but at the same time, you know, he's an Atlanta guy. He was the DC there for a bit. He was the interim coach once Dan Quinn did leave. And obviously that's what catapulted him into getting that role with the Rams, and he comes back as a seasoned veteran. I always kind of bring up too. I in some Rams circles, you know, we see Morris is kind of isn't seen that highly, but let's look at what he did with this year. I think this year is one of the biggest testaments of what he does defensively. He was given a very bare bones roster aside from Aaron Donald, and he, I mean, by no means a top defense, but really made this serviceable. Obviously got us into the playoffs. So, I mean, he's definitely a great coach. I do think, I mean, this is a situation like the Raiders, you know, they're arguably a quarterback away, and, you know, in a very weak division, we'll just have to wait and see what he can really do. But, I mean, I really do think this is a really smart hire for the Falcons, and, you know, like we say, you know, we're just going to have to wait and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, where Raheem Morris was about to come, I mean, the Rams, they had a very young defense, very young defensive backs. And I know, you know, notable Darion Kendrick, you know, he had his struggles this season. You know, you talk about that a lot, but, you know, him moving back to the cornerback 3 spot, that's where he kind of had a little bit of leverage and a little bit of success there. So Raheem Morris, he was cooking up some good stuff for this defense. Obviously, you know,
I'll say though, the only one thing that we do maybe watch out for with the Atlanta Falcons, he likes to throw some defensive ends in coverage. Sometimes even throws them in as a cornerback role. So, you know, that might be a little frustrating for them. I definitely have to see that, seeing Hoyt in coverage, but yeah, I just had to throw that in.
I mean, but like Raheem Morris, without a doubt, I think he's going to be, you know, a huge turnaround for this Falcons team. Like I said, a quarterback away. I mean, you got players. You got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and then you got some good guys on defense as well. You know, AJ Terrell, who, you know, he had a pretty decent year here, but he's a very underrated coordinator.
Jesse Bates.
Jesse Bates
had a nice season.
Had a great season as well. Let's get that there too. But without a doubt, it's really just that quarterback scene and whatever Raheem Morris can cook up for this Falcons team. And now moving on to the 2 most recent hires. So the Seattle Seahawks, they signed Mac McDonald. He was the DC of the Baltimore Ravens, and you know, I'm not mad at this one. I mean, Mike McDonald, he arguably had the number 1 defense for that Ravens team, and we saw what they were able to do in the regular season. We saw what they were able to do against the Houston team. Obviously, they didn't capitalize against the Chiefs team, but
no, I mean, arguably they did all they needed to do. They held the Chiefs scoreless in the second half. They did their part. Is offensively that the Ravens struggle. So I think there's a lot of pedigree comes in too.
There's some defensive plays during those drives where, you know, it wasn't, you know, I guess schemed right, but without a doubt, it was very great defense, especially with guys like Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton, who, you know, I've had high praise for very lately. It was just really going well for this defense here. And, you know, with the Seahawks team, you know, I had a little joke about myself, you know, could the Legion of Boom be back as you know, for the Seahawks? It could be, but sure. I mean, a lot of young guys on that defense, a lot of great guys on that defense that, you know, had a decent year for this Seattle Seahawks team. Obviously, a lot of more problems offensively wise, but honestly, in my opinion, I think Mike McDonald is probably a great hire for the Seahawks team, and, you know, it could trend to the right direction. Obviously, you know, it's another team. It's a quarterback situation that's really got to be put into place here.
Yeah. And I think, you know, looking offensive side of the ball, this is a reason why I kind of do think McDonald, I mean, I see him having some success, but I do think it's going to take him a little longer than maybe some of these hires could, maybe to get their teams into the playoffs. I mean, he's a great coordinator, like what we were saying. I mean, this goes back to the division round, but I mean, the way he led his defense without Marlon Humphrey, without a star player, you know, he he's a great defensive play caller, and obviously that brings a lot of pedigree into this Seattle team that, you know, they're known for some great defense, and they have phenomenal young defense right now. So that I think McDonald's gonna get a lot out of these guys, and I think it's gonna definitely, it's at least defensively, they're gonna be set. It's offensively, it's what are they gonna do? I don't know who's on the offensive side of the ball right now as a coordinator, but when we see, you know, what are they going to do with Geno Smith? Is it Drew Lock? Are they going to look into someone in the draft? I know Penix is someone that's kind of linked there because of the Washington connection. But, I mean, regardless, I mean, they have their pieces. It's just see if it's going to click. So we'll see in Seattle. Not too worried about them right now, especially, you know, as an NFC West rival. But you never know with some surprises. And, of course, the most recent one, Christian, this one's gonna hurt you right now. The Washington Commanders have sniped Dan Quinn from you guys. So, you know, I'll let you give your thoughts on this one first.
So obviously, you know, honestly, I think it's one-sided with me because, you know, obviously, you know, from 2020 transition for Mike Nolan, who arguably had a historically bad defense from this Cowboys team for the first time in many years. And, you know, Dan Quinn, he really set the bar high for this Dallas defense, let alone for the coordinator position. I mean, he made this defense very watchable for me, and I know all the other Cowboys were very grateful since he stepped out. I know a lot of guys, oh, Cowboys are cooked. You guys got Dan Quinn. You got to realize he was a DC for the Seahawks. I mean, he was coaching the Legion of Boom. That's what everybody was forgetting.
The thing is, you know, he got that bad rap because of the Super Bowl, and that's what a lot of people forget, how great of a defensive schemer he is.
He's a very great schemer, and, you know, aside from that Super Bowl with what he did in Seattle, you know, like, I mean, obviously it overshadows it because of the Super Bowl choke, but he did a lot of great things for this Cowboys defense. I mean, when he came here, we led the league in takeaways for the past 3 years, and he, like I said, he set the bar really high for this Cowboys defense. And, you know, I'm not too mad about this for the Commanders because, you know, his head coaching ability, I mean, he is going to bring, most likely, he is going to bring Joe Witt Jr., who was our assistant pass coordinator. So he's most likely going to take him for the defensive coordinator position. And, you know, that's another video for me to get into, but, you know, just set aside there with the Cowboys. You know, that'll be another thing with, you know, with teams to improve. But with Joe Witt most likely going, you know, that's another defensive thing for the Cowboys got to look into. But as for the Commanders, Dan Quinn, with how this Washington team is, I think I got mixed feelings, specifically with the team, on how he's able to be transitioned from arguably coming from a highly stacked roster team, the Cowboys, to a very low stacked roster team like the Commanders.
I think if we're gonna look at it that way, I mean, sure, you know, it's definitely not the Cowboys defense, but I mean, we see a guy like Ron Rivera did bring out decently enough. I mean, let's be honest, you know, the Commanders defense wasn't like terrible, if we're being honest, and, you know, Rivera did have a decent part, and then he's no Dan Quinn, at least right now. I mean, sure, you know, Rivera's definitely past his prime. So we'll look at Dan Quinn, and I definitely think he can take out a lot. It's kind of honestly see a very similar situation to the Seahawks and McDonald. He's probably going to have a pretty solid defense. There are also lots of questions on the quarterback side. You know, they have that number 2 pick. Is Drake May, Jaden Daniels an option, or do you dare still keep Sam Howell in that position?
Yeah, who knows, man? I mean, this Commanders team, it's still a very young team. There's a lot of potential going on with this Commanders team. Obviously, I don't want to say I think they're a division rival, but, you know, gotta be real here. I mean, Dan Quinn, he could shift the culture with this Commanders team. That number 2 pick, though, like you said, you know, take the risk on Howell, or, you know, just go for the quarterback. You know, a lot of things to come and play here with this team, but, you know, still mixed feelings with this hire, if I want to be a little bit more realistic about it. And I'll just close out the video. We got couple coordinators and coaches who did not land the head coaching job. So let's start off with probably the not so surprising. Let's start off with the biggest one, Bill Belichick.
Definitely was probably the biggest surprise.
Bill Belichick, he did not land a spot. I mean, I already see there are a lot of people speculations with the Chargers, and obviously with how the Dallas Cowboys, them not making far in the playoffs with that embarrassment.
Let's talk about the Falcons, how the big fumble they pulled out there.
You know what? They had 2 interviews with Belichick, and
a 3-hour interview to start, and then a head-to-head with Arthur Blank, which, when we look at it, I think the biggest thing was, one, you know, he doesn't want to give up power. He wants to be the main GM. He wants to have all the power in his situation, and a lot of front offices are very scared about that. And sure, you know, he's a great defensive mind, but let's see the downfall of the Patriots. That's kind of a big factor of why, you know, maybe the league's passing him by. We see a lot of those things with maybe Pete Carroll too.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he wants to be everything. That's kind of the main reason why he probably wouldn't coach in Dallas, because of Jerry Jones. But this is probably the most surprising one here. And then the other surprising one, Mike Vrabel. I mean, we were surprised enough that he got fired from this Titans team. Mike Vrabel, he did a lot for this Tennessee Titans team. Sure, these past couple years it was a little iffy, but this Titans team was pretty much relevant if you want to be more realistic about it. And him getting fired was really, really confusing. I mean, he could be a great head coach in any other team. Him not getting hired is a huge surprise here. But as a DC, I mean, I've said it before. I mean, it comes to the Cowboys, man. I would not be mad at him as a defensive coordinator. Bring Derrick Henry as well. Bring me a little bit of happiness right then and there.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it too. Would he be a good fit, for the Rams maybe? But little sidetrack on here. We did finally get our guy. We got Chris Shula, grandson of Don Shula. Are we gonna get one of those historic Miami Dolphins defenses from the past? Just to see how he feels or he morphs his role. But of course, I mean, I think this is apart from those big names. Let's talk about some coordinators that was a big surprise. And I think Ben Johnson easily, ever since even last season, he was a big commodity. And going into this year, it kind of seemed like he was a lock. Looked like the Commanders were really close with him, but it ended up being he wanted to get greedy with the contract. And I guess some coordinators kind of look at it. I mean, hey, if you don't want to give me the bag, Detroit's got a great thing going for him right now. So why not stick it out? Maybe keep building upon what they got. Don't think I really mentioned it on videos, but I was really skeptical about the Lions moving forward once Johnson left, because let's see how Jared Goff's
offense was actually really rolling that year with Amon-Ra.
And that's the thing, and that's what he brought so much out of Jared Goff. So once offenses figure it out, once Ben Johnson leaves, what's going to happen to that Lions defense? Well, we're going to have to wait a little longer because Ben Johnson is staying, and it's definitely a godsend for the Detroit Lions right now.
Yeah, obviously it's obviously great, but Ben Johnson is here. I mean, obviously if he wasn't a little greedy dude, he would be a head coach somewhere else. But for the Lions, they got cut some slack here, so they are going to be retaining their offensive coordinator, and Jared Goff is still going to be cooking with him. And now let's move on to another coordinator, very young mind here, Bobby Slovic. I mean, he was a name that I mentioned not that long ago. He could potentially be a head coach if Mike McCarthy pretty left here, young offensive mind. That's the thing with a lot of these coordinators that are young, defensively, offensively, does not matter. And their scheming, it can be very different, something new here. And Bobby Slovic, what he was able to do with that Texans team was shout out rookie quarterback, and then the pieces they added, Tank Dell, a rookie, and then having Nico Collins there as well. And then the running backs, I know there's a little iffy stuff about the running backs there, but he was able to cook with that offense with the rookie quarterback.
With Devin Singletary. I mean, no hate to Devin Singletary, but I mean, he's arguably, he's been looked at, maybe a little past his prime, and I mean, hey, he brought out a lot of good in him.
Yeah, I mean, Dameon Pierce bring down, and I wouldn't say I paid on Singletary's downfall, but I would have expected him to not play that good. But with him there and how he was running that offense, it was looking very, very great for that Houston team. Ended up getting a playoff win out of that too, and then obviously with the help of the defense as well. But Bobby Slovic, I would give it maybe another year or two with this Texans team with how the offense is rolling, and maybe he could
he'll definitely be a head coach.
He should be a very, very strong candidate for a head coaching position.
Let's also look at him. He's a part of that Shanahan tree. Obviously, DeMeco Ryans brought him over once he came from San Francisco, and I mean, he was a part. I mean, little lesser known, but he was a part of that. I mean, let's call it historic Redskins coaching area where LaFleur, Shanahan, McVay, everyone was kind of brought in there. Somehow they still went 3-13, but I mean, yes, I mean we didn't even mention how Slovic actually kept this thing going even after losing Tank Dell. And they kind of did struggle a little bit when Stroud went down. Obviously that was going to be a big factor, but I think Tank Dell, once he was out, a lot of it was expected that they were going to struggle, and they went to the playoffs, they won a playoff game, and they took it to the Ravens for the first half. So I mean, a lot of great things from Bobby Slovic. Obviously, to me, I expect him to be an easy hire. I kind of expected him to be going to the Seahawks, but it didn't happen. And obviously, a lot of these guys will probably be up for opportunities next season. We'll see. Definitely have a lot of guys on the hot seat. That might be a topic for the future, maybe a little before the season, but definitely a lot of these guys were surprises. And that obviously, that wraps this up. It was, just a little. I mean, we expected This did drag a little later because we decided, you know what, hey, let's not actually do these individually. Let's put our mind to it and give a full video for all the coaches, and
build up too. So obviously lined up perfectly.
Yeah, actually it did. And yeah, that'll wrap us up. I mean, now pretty sure the following video will be as we give our takes on the NFL Honors finalists. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys back here real soon.